So if you look at data and you see the number of houses that were built in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, it was basically identical. And our housing starts were keeping pace with population growth. In 2008, when the economy crashed, people stopped building housing, and they didn't start building housing again until about 2012, 2013. And then they started building very slowly. And during that same time, we've been a popular place for people to move to because this region's grown up, our tech industry's gone strong, and we're importing a lot of people, and we're not even building enough housing for our population growth. The way to fix this, and there's lots of people who debate about this, but I think it's very clear this is a supply problem, and it's a supply across the board, because if there's more luxury housing, then the people who have lots of money will get the luxury housing and not the higher quality middle housing. So we need to provide housing at every part of the ecosystem, from people who can buy anything they want to people who need subsidized housing. We need all ranges of housing.
Every single thing we try to do in this city to address core concerns that residents have is made harder by the severe lack of housing that we have. It's not always a root cause issue, but it is an exacerbating issue that makes every one of our potential solutions and our services just harder.
Home in Tacoma is an effort by the city of Tacoma to try to provide more housing types of different levels. And essentially what they've done is they've rezoned all of the single-family neighborhoods to allow various scales of small multifamily units. And some of those units are going to be targeted towards rental, and a lot of them are actually aimed at creating places that people can own.
In many ways, it's learning from, what we learned in California and other places that kept what's called single-family exclusive zoning. And removing single-family exclusive zoning is not going out and asking for a massive amount of density, but it's allowing density that we were artificially limiting. And especially in a world in which we are having reductions in home ownership rates in Tacoma, we're down to like 56% and much lower in BIPOC populations. You're not going to increase that on the backs of existing supply of houses. It's just not going to happen.
The council aspect of the process was they had periodic touch-ins, and mostly council kind of set the tone of what they were hoping for. And then over time, they would start to set pieces in stone to say, well, here's how we'll approach it, and here's what some of the goals are, and how do we do anti-gentrification, and how do we get all these pieces. What was really great this time around is I had two council members that responded. It was Councilmember Bushnell and Councilmember Sadalge. They reached out and they said, hey, we'd like to understand more about what your concerns are. And we met for coffee, and they listened to me a little bit, and they drilled me with questions, and they asked all kinds of things, and they wanted to understand the why and what the magnitude of what could go wrong, I thought was. And what I appreciated, they weren't just taking what I said at face value. They were using judgment and their expertise to really understand it. And then they started asking about, what if I propose this amendment or that amendment? How do you think it would go through? And they had a sense of what things that they thought the rest of the council could accept and what things they couldn't.
I had some really great conversations with some of the architects and builders about the practicalities of some of the initial plans that had come out with Home in Tacoma. It's the balance between how much can you fit in a box, in a certain property. And when we, as a city, we have all these desires of what we'd like to fit in a box in terms of that development. But sometimes what we wanted there didn't necessarily make sense with the size of the area we were looking for. So we had to kind of find that balance of like, yes, we have these certain amenities and things that we'd like to see in the box of the property, but what can actually feasibly fit there and make sense for our city and bring more houses online, which is ultimately what our goal was, is to bring more housing online. So I had a really great conversation with a gentleman named Ben Ferguson. He helped me kind of understand the box a bit more, as well as other conversations with some of the other developers. And it really steered me in a direction in trying to right size some of our desires as a city with what makes sense for the different lot sizes that we do have.
Because often, we're at 30,000 feet. And we need to set policy. And it's really important when we set policy to understand what the potential unintended consequences are. For me personally, it's been able to understand what are these unintended consequences and what are the things that we can do to foster really good, smart growth without getting in our own way. Because policies that don't take, a variety of viewpoints into account tend to be limited. I like working with the chamber because usually I have to ask the question, okay, I understand you're complaining about it. What is your potential solution? And the chamber usually comes with potential solutions as well that we can discuss, which already gets us a foot or two farther down the pathway to a solution. But it's also really important to understand that in the structures of Washington, right, where there's limited revenue opportunities, government alone cannot solve every single problem by itself.
Yeah, it's really important for the city to work with the chamber and other organizations and groups because it's not just about what the city can do, it's about what we as a community can do. Because the city can only do things so far. We really have to rely on the community, businesses, the chamber, and other organizations to also buy into what our shared vision is and work together for the same goals. And we go much further together, and having those positive relationships and the back and forth to really try and come up with the best solutions takes our city further than trying to be adversarial with each other. And so I felt like this was a great collaboration with the chamber, as well as other organizations and groups in the community, to really have that shared vision as, the city is being a big part of that, but not the only part of what makes Home in Tacoma the best it can be.
Home in Tacoma is probably a really good thing for Tacoma business for a couple different reasons. One, it allows us to have places where our workers can live. It gives us more likelihood that people of different economic and cultural backgrounds can stay here. And then as a business, the other thing that it does is it creates opportunities for our staff and our customers to thrive. And then the third thing that I really like about this from a business perspective, and people who are building and developing these small housing projects are local. When we create policies that allow 4 units and 6 units to be possible and to be economically viable, we're actually encouraging our neighbors and our coworkers and our friends to take some of the money that they've saved up and to invest it in housing that allow other people to live. And over time, that provides economic stability for them too. And I think people who are developing in their own community probably care a lot more about the quality of that housing and the comfort of the people living in their housing than somebody who's staring at a spreadsheet and they're just looking for their 16% return on investment.
With Home in Tacoma, it's really going to help us also go to the path that we're trying to go to, which are these 15-minute communities to keep people able to just walk to parks, walk to local businesses, actually. Businesses that invest in Tacoma are really people who live here. It's people who invest in Tacoma. Having more people in a smart growth manner is going to stimulate the local economy. That local economy generates the sales tax dollars that we use on council and our budgeting to do the good things that our residents are asking for.
How this benefits the entire city and what the reform means for everybody is really what the vision of the future of the city is going to look like. We want to make sure that we're growing in a way that makes sense for our city and our community, and that growth is managed in a way that our community has that input. And I really think that this is going to bring a lot of new character to our neighborhoods. I think it's going to bring more vibrancy to our neighborhoods. I think it's going to provide more opportunities for businesses to build and grow. And I think it's going to create more walkable areas around our city that previously might not have had a lot of foot traffic. And when that foot traffic comes, it creates a sense of belonging, it creates a sense of community, and it creates the opportunity for businesses to thrive in the community. Yeah, one of the ways that we can ensure that there's smart growth and affordability with Home in Tacoma and into the future is to making sure that we as a council are constantly checking in, both with our partners at the chamber and the development community, but also the community at large, and seeing what's working and what's not working. It's really important that we have flexibility because no policy is perfect, and we need to see how the market conditions change and whether changes need to be made with Home in Tacoma to really get the most out of this.
Did we actually meaningfully increase the supply of housing for everyone here or not, and why, and how do we continue on that path? I hope in like 5-10 years down the line, we're recognized for having made an intentional decision as a city to recognize that we need more housing, that we need more different types of housing, and we need home ownership housing. And we got it done.